laughing at the news. The old cunt is laughing at the news. Haha, the old cunt is laughing at the news. I'm not a psychopath, so I don't I don't reject love, right? And then have to constantly drink or constantly take Adderall or constantly smoke crack cocaine, constantly get blowjobs, constantly try to have rough, disgusting, deviant, violent sex, constantly try to smoke marijuana. I don't have to do that. Um, just I don't have to sit in a corner like this because I can't bond to my own fucking wife. I don't have to do that. And the reason you can't do that is because she did something and she's gross and she's old cunt. Okay. That's why I said attachment disorder and a complete psychopath. But I'm laughing at the news about they're giving the populace a reason for what's going on because they're being euthanized by thermonuclear weapons in a complete and total extinction and eradication off of planet Earth. Like I told you, the day that Brian Buchanan, did he get money? No, the meal. He's supposed to be on a walking program, hence the watches that he can't do because he's not a human being. Goes to the thing, gets the meal. We're supposed to then go to Stop and Shop to return bottles so I can get water and soda or something. He made up a complete fight to interrupt my walk route. He's not a human being. Only a primate does that. It was just he started this weird behavior that's completely insane, and it's every excuse for. And it reminds me of my brother that died. And yeah, just he wouldn't go to a hospital either. I mean, Candy and I have discussed it, obviously, because you go, yeah, just he would never go to a hospital. I remember he'd be on the phone. I'm presuming it was my now dead quote unquote father, the sperm donor. And he goes, I've been to hospitals. They won't do anything. You didn't go to a hospital and explain to them the amount of rage you have. And you didn't go to a hospital and tell them that you told your wife that you could kill her. You didn't do that. You didn't tell a hospital that the reason that you didn't meet with her at the Mansfield train station after a 24-hour cooling off period, a 48-hour cooling off period is because not because you're drinking, but because you are angry at her. You didn't tell a hospital that. No, you didn't, because you would have been admitted on a psych hold. Okay, so you didn't do that. Not your wife something. Absolutely not. Did you tell probably any of your friends you didn't tell them that? You also didn't tell them that before the wedding, you were showing up at a library and yelling at me that you had to get away from me because you wanted to punch me in the face when you have a history of punching people in the face and spitting in an EMT workers. Never did you do that. Nope. And you're clearly not on the right medication. I've discussed it with many people, and the therapist has been told this for at least 2 months. So it's a damnation of man at health. I think most people know that these people are doing this to people on purpose, like, and they're going to destroy his liver. They enjoy putting people in psychiatric hospitals and prisons, which I told you I was trying to avoid. And I went over with him and my therapist that he could have done that without marrying me, and he could have done it without having sex with me. So I told him now he's a rapist. I don't know how you're denying that. How are you denying that? Okay. You got a marriage license to get drunk that day, not you love me. That's why you never say it. Okay. And it's just nothing but rage towards me. Because if I told you, because you're a psychopath that can't bond to me, you won't let yourself love me. Okay. Because of your abuse. It's like I'm tired of fucking talking about it. How many people would have to be told my assessment of this person, including him? Everything that I've ever told you to do, Brian Buchanan, ended up being the correct thing to do, and you fucking know it. right? You know it. The first thing you should have done when you got dropped off at a train, which is you text me right away and I text go to a hospital. You should have immediately called an ambulance and told them the truth. Not it's my fault. Okay. Absolutely not my fault. And you know that after you flipped out about I just wanted my phone back, bitch, that I would not agree to meet you somewhere when you're in that mood. Because I have no idea what you're doing. I don't know you anymore. What's real about you, what's a con about you, if you're sick, if you just hate me, what is going on after the past couple of weeks? I don't know if you're dangerous and you're trying to trick me like you did with the phone. I have no idea. Okay, just what that was. So I think you know, and then the erratic behavior where you cannot communicate back and forth with me what you actually want. You can't even talk to me on a phone. You start yelling. But yet you don't need to call an ambulance and no one else needs to either, just like the 4 days at the library. So it's a damnation. I got to worry about this shit in another life. I can't keep worrying about it because the population is damned and it seems unstoppable. Okay, that they have to make up excuses for everything they fucking do, just like Brian Buchanan. Just like I told you, they are not going to stop this until this guy is just dead in the ground. Like, we have to be apart and we can't have housing. Absolutely. And they're going to just deem I can't be his caretaker because now we're in a fucking toxic. The handwriting is on the wall because these people are sick. Okay. The therapist herself in a video call confirmed that I've been talking to her about this stuff for months and nothing has been done. Get it? And they keep prescribing to him Adderall. There's no possible way that person's supposed to be on fucking Adderall. At the very least, he's manic depressive. Yeah, that is fucking crazy to give a person like that Adderall, and then he has trazodone to fucking sleep at night and Clonidine and Adderall. He's supposed to take it at the same time. That's fucking insane. He already admitted to you that he's faking to get the Adderall, and he fakes to get the Librium, and you still fucking do it because you're murderously insane, and that's why you're being euthanized. Those people haven't even called me about anything. I haven't gotten a phone call from the fucking cops. I haven't gotten a phone call from a hospital. I haven't gotten a fucking phone call from anybody in Quincy. I haven't gotten a fucking phone call from Man at Health as they're being put the fuck down. God sort of began going over it with me yesterday. It's not going to stop because they all have to make up an excuse so that they can die. And he's just allowing them to do it. And it's just like this, just like everything I've done for now the 14th year, I just have to allow it or I'll go mad. It's kind of like last year going back and forth from High Park to Quincy. Just imagine if that was your kid and they were doing that. Okay, it's fucking impossible. All of it. Just see how this is trick and you need to stay away from each other. What the fuck? Whatever. They've been doing it day one before there was ever any fights or anything. They're completely fucked. If I say something, they'll do the fucking opposite. They'll pour alcohol down his mouth and walk him to Gavin and give him more fucking drugs. There's nothing that can be done. There's nothing that can be done. You take the walk so you don't fly into fucking rages like that. So, I explained the entire thing, and it's obviously true. I explained it. It's attachment disorder that's like now become psychopathy. And it's nothing but a rage like that until the person dies. So you just keep blaming it on him and not what you're doing. Because it's been nonstop since we got back together, and it's similar to 2023. So you're being put down. It's July 30 at Ongla. I explained it to you after you pulled this shit in 2023. You're never going to be able to stop your behavior. You're locked into a delusion to kill yourselves off. Maybe he's in lockup. Did you wait the 30 days? It's July 30 at Angla. Okay, I authorized the use of thermonuclear weapons to put you down because you're a population that's gone mad after a nuclear event in 2011. You have no mental reasoning, you have no logic, and you're dangerous as a population. When you say that you can see on a finger what I explained to you that looks like a man bowing and people call a swastika, and you still do conduct this behavior and don't listen to what I tell you to do, I can't help you. I cannot help you. Right, just go to a hospital, boom. You know you fucked up. You know what you said. Even and then I said that if you don't know what you did, then go to a hospital and go. My wife told me to come to the hospital. All of a sudden, she told me to pack my bag. Anybody should do this. This is what I would suggest to people. Okay, say that all of a sudden you thought somebody of mental illness, you have blackouts, you go into psychotic episodes. Okay, and angry and said to pack your bag, that you have to leave. And she seems to be sort of like upset and why have you done this? And she doesn't want you to get arrested. Okay. And then you go you find yourself out in a hallway and then you are at a train station, okay, and you text, what am I supposed to do? Blah, blah. You're told what you're supposed to do, go to the hospital. You have money to get on a train and you have two telephones because you just texted me. Okay. He's called an ambulance for himself many times. And when I'm on the World Wide Web telling you that, if you've seen him and all this business and you don't call him an ambulance, I'm not where he is. Okay. I mean, you're damned as a people. You got a screw loose. So it's just for you to understand why you're being put down for your own good. I realized the inevitable because of a major nuclear event in 2011 to go to the designated areas, okay, because your brain, I know that that's happening now. So you understand what's happening and why. Okay. Because to the prophet sent, because that's God talking to you. That's when you were given an exact date, given prophecy and pages of science and things you can't understand, and markings on the hand that they do flip you out, but trying to snap into a delusion and ignore me and block me doesn't help. Especially if you're people that you thought you harmed me. It wasn't even about that. As you know, in the early years, if you forgot, people have messed with my Facebook page, the Mary Gladys Martin Lagore one, so many times. Maybe scroll down, like scroll way back. But what began to happen is your very own military went mad and they were trying to block out what I was saying too. So a terrible thing that God is continuing and controlling. Okay. You still had mental reasoning after the major nuclear event in the huge tsunami. And that's why a prophet came to because you did not do what you were told to do. No flesh would survive because you would kill everyone and imagine this isn't Mao's China. God isn't allowing that to happen to you. It's happened to populations before where there's been mass starvation. Therefore, nuclear weapons were invented in the event of a catastrophic event on planet Earth, which is what has happened. So you do need to remain calm because it's better to remain calm like you're on the Titanic sinking because there's nothing that can be done. Okay. Your leaders were seeking out me, and then they've got it in their head that they didn't have to listen to me. Okay, so there have to be measures when you're running a system and it's your job to take care of your primate family. Okay, all 8 billion of you, about 7 billion, 7.5 billion, probably at least primates. Okay, so that is what has happened. It's a progressive terminal brain disease, like an Alzheimer's. Now people that I talk to, and they've learned to be zen about it and try to accept Almighty God's love, which psychopaths can't. So it's more difficult, and a lot of them flip out, and they've got to be medicated. And he'll help put them into personas where they make up new things for themselves and they're forgiven, stuff like that. So if you don't recall it, you can Google it. March 11th, 2011. Okay. And it's in the Holy Bible. Okay. You're not being punished. It's because it's the age ended like an age of dinosaurs. Okay, so your species is being, to the best of my understanding, being transitioned into another form of life. Okay, just leave it at that. Your species is being, because it becomes more complicated because you've lost so much brain matter. Okay, your species is being transitioned into another form of life. Okay, and that's just how God is doing it. When the brain dies like that, it's actually a compassionate way to go. Okay, so forgetting word like retrievals and what we were just doing and what we were just talking about, embrace it as a compassionate way to go. And because you don't want to end up like someone like Barbara Kent and you can't care for yourselves, you don't want your body to keep going. So the thermonuclear weapons generally give us lung cancer and we pass away. And because the brain is also dying, we're not aware of what's going on. Okay, so you're going to have issues with your central nervous system. Okay. Your CNS. Okay. People that don't talk about that, like Brian, I think he's completely unaware of it. He thinks his nerves are shot. Yes. You went right back to the nuke zone, right at the big boom. You were told only to go back there if you were going to use. Because at that point, you're most definitely not my husband and you're a primate. Okay, so that's where you're supposed to be put down. That's why I said I told you to not go back there. So obviously the hospital will still help because he needs to be on different medication. Okay. Yeah, it looks like this will go and then we'll have some retraction. So if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable today, you're not alone. So me, I'm just emotionally upset because of realizing that this man never loved me. He doesn't have the capacity to love anyone. And he clearly has a lot of disgust and hatred for me. So clearly it's upsetting. I know people go, you've got to be sick because didn't you just say that someone raped you by coercion in 2016? Yeah. So just be real careful. Okay. I don't think you can really deny this thing with Brian Buchanan, especially based on whatever statements he's making right now, on top of the other stuff. Okay. I don't think anyone cares that if he's saying he's a drug addict and a drunk, he had 3 weeks at Gavin to sort it out. On top of the 5 months he said he was sober after taking off from Faulkner Hospital. That's kind of a lot of forethought, and I could see that he went into a psychopathic rage because he didn't like what I was saying about him after that. Okay. Too bad you committed sexual assault by coercion. That's why people don't resist you at the time or report it. Right. And then when you do weird stuff afterwards, they realize what you just did. Like when you go, "Nun Mary, haha." Okay, so then you weren't going to let it go until you felt that you somehow deflowered me by raping me. And then there was obviously no interest in sex at all after that. Okay, so I'm kind of surprised, other than the comment about the thing and the old content. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't more of that, but maybe God stopped you from doing it.
Then Tata Engineering turned its focus to producing homegrown Indian cars, launching the Tata.
Like Leia.
The violent protests marred the Nano's rollout, and it was later discontinued.
Oh, so anyway, yes, you could have had a longer life after that, and then you'd be like a natural progression from the brain disease and stuff. And your children, even though, because you've had children born since then, um, they could have had the brain capacity to take care of you if you could control your breathing, but you wouldn't. And then once you lost mental reasoning because of the initial blast in 2011 that destroyed an outside brain layer, the brain then begins to die. Explains the echometric strokes where it seals the vessels and the brain dies around it slowly. Yes, it's not like a typical stroke. Okay. Um, right, because you would not listen. It's like quite bizarre. I don't know what type of evidence you would need that it's God, with the prophet that you were promised to be sent, that God never told you it was a man. And because of this doctrine, where when a prophet comes that's a man, you're supposed to murder him to forgive your sins, that's some of it. I've seen how badly you've treated me, and I'm not a man. That's supposed to be a man that you nail to a cross. That's why I tried to explain it all to you what the truth is. Okay. It's a fingerprint that looks like a cross. That's what Christians made up from the documents. It's a sword, but you decided it's a cross when it's clearly a sword. Okay, I call it a downward sword. It's a fingerprint. Just like say that the fingerprint looked like a flower, your entire religion would be based on a flower. You'd have a man nailed to a flower, and that forgives your sins. That's what you would make up. Obviously, whatever's going on over 2 millennia, everything God had to put everything around that. So yes, even your 2 5 star, it's not that weird when you actually, if you had any mental reasoning. Okay, it's like, yeah, like when you drilled people's faces into the mountain, just like that. Okay, that's why there's a 2 5 star on a person's finger, a P on a person's finger, a fingerprint that looks like a cross. It's a sword. It's a downward sword. Mary am. Okay, I am Mary. Not your name's Miriam and all that. Okay, God has a way of doing it so it can be explained to people that they're having one of those things. Some people have mental illness that is called a religious, when it has religious connotations. That means you're not truth. That's why it's in your doctrine. That it's helpful to help people with diagnosis and coping with mental illness. I'm bulletproof, yes. You have to deny that you can see those things. And that makes you a not see, which is kind of dangerous to me and others. Hopefully, God is fully containing you people now. Okay. Um, it's Abram bowing at an altar. They're called my stories, the my stories of the kingdom, not mysteries. Just like Mary Kent's schizophrenia and all the stories. No, I'm not the most important person on earth, but apparently a species was created that has a doctrine, and I'm just a prophet, and I've never stated ever that I'm the only person that does this. But you have to have a prophet that's, I guess, old and good at this. So I am pretty old, yeah. Way older than you think, Brian Buchanan. And some people like all that old stuff with the muscles and the veins. It's a different species. So people who I'm an elder of actually find that stuff cool. Having a number 4 in your head, an M on your mouth, an arrow in your throat, all of that stuff. That is considered cool in my species. when your body begins to look like a tree with veins in your neck. That is cool to my species. Okay, so if you have issues with pedophilia, which I questioned last year, Brian Buchanan, some of your statements, I could see that being gross. And then I got my glasses and went, ew, because you do different personalities. Okay, so out of this because you go, if a person's a pedophile, if Brian, if I won't, maybe we won't use his name, okay? If a dude is a pedophile and you're 20, you're an old cunt. Okay. So if someone, first of all, you probably weren't expecting to be that small in the vagina. I'm a different species and I'm very fit. And you're not used to being with females of my species, especially fit ones. Our vaginas don't get stretched out. Okay. And I explained it how disgusting it is because you were raping, but you were 13. So you weren't culpable then, but your thoughts and ideas now you are. If you began raping a 14-year-old, okay, you've destroyed her vagina and you know it, and you probably think that's great now. Okay. And you stated that you hate her. Okay. I'm sure you hate me too. That would be why you would want to rape someone that you believe they hate her. I do believe that. Um, and the only reason you defended it was to hurt me. And that's the only reason you married me, to have sex so that you could just do what you're doing now. Right, because I mentioned this and that, and then I said something about because of her body type and stuff that he explained to me, there's no way that she's tight like that. And he goes, well, I swear to God. And then outside, he goes, I said something about it, and he goes, well, after 14 years of fucking her, that she was loose. Okay. You have to understand how disgusting that is. Okay. Some of these children have to have surgeries to try to correct their private parts when you're raped at that young age because your body's not done growing. So, some pretty repulsive statements.
And he says Israel has experienced this before. If they repeat this experience, they will definitely be destroyed.
I believe that when he opens up that Facebook page with the wrestling, that's another character. Yeah. That, and I knew it too. As soon as he went into that page, first of all, he told me he couldn't get into it, and that's why he had another Facebook page. And he only admitted he had another Facebook page because I obviously, when you open up a new Facebook page, because we're back together, maybe he doesn't know that I already know that page is still in existence. Why aren't you using your old page? I can't get into it. So that was when we first got back together. So then he reveals right now he can get right back into it. That's what he told me. Why were you even trying to get into it? Get it? It's a cyclic behavior. Why were you even trying to get into that page? How did you get into it? I thought you were locked out of it. Oh, they just let me back into it. I don't know. Yeah, you do know. Because you probably were already texting your friends at that point and talking about getting ready to ditch me. Okay. Many things caused you to stay with me, in my opinion. At Gavin, you had really kind of no other options. You tried to make it seem, because I don't forget things, and you do. You tried to make it seem like you gave up a halfway house to stay at the shelter with me. But then you forgot they couldn't get you into one because of your history. Okay, so it was never even true that you chose me over a halfway house. You couldn't get into one. Okay. And then you already were having arguments with me about the marijuana. And then when you showed up in the shelter and I didn't want to give it to you, you would just, that's why you took off. And then you only went back with because you had to go to court. Remember? and you didn't know why they put you in jail? Was that right when he got back together with me, May 24th of 2024? Something happened that the ambulance was called. He was hanging around with Shane, and Shane was letting him stay in a Salvation Army hotel, and they were drinking. So after Shane was gone, he had no other options. All right, because when we talked at the library and stuff, he had no intention of going back with me because he was still hanging out with Shane. And I remember that Vaughn at the library was just disgusted because of 2023 when he told everybody he was going to marry me. And then the sexual assault and all of it. And they couldn't believe he took off from the hospital like that, because then they couldn't blame his using anymore either on what he was doing. And I'm sure he made all kinds of comments, and whoever he was hanging around with. I'm pretty convinced he was hanging around with that person that Jerry told me she could be infected with something based on what she does in her drug use and stuff. He admitted to hanging around with the other person that he now doesn't want to talk to, that she realizes to stay away from him now too. But when you can't care. It's not important to me. She's not a friend of mine, and I don't care. I cared that she was hanging around with Michael Foran because I care about Michael Foran. I cared that she was doing that with Brian, but I mean, how much can I keep that? Not I'm going to be friends with her. I'm just saying that's not really a way to hurt. I'm not even going to know about it. I'm not going back to Quincy. I explained it. Okay, when we had to leave the shelter, I was in Quincy because that's where the shelter is. I'm literally street homeless. I died in April. I had to leave that house. Those people had an opportunity to let me stay there. Okay. You're getting it now as to why this is all happening, why God has to get rid of you? Okay, because this is the 14th year of it. And you can't control your behavior, and you can't fashion how to just give one woman. It's helping you realize how sick you are, right? And the need for the nuclear weapons. Okay. It's part of dementia. If you figure out in now it's 14 years how to put me in housing and give me a stipend, you're not going to be able to take care of yourselves. Okay. So I can figure out things. I'm doing pretty good. And obviously because I'm a prophet. What else was I talking about? Thank you, God. There you go. That's what it is. Other people do it too. And that they probably know that it's God helping them. It gets better when you stop rejecting God. But when you're sites, you can't. And if you're Brian Buchanan, he's already saying he doesn't have a faith. Like he doesn't even believe in God. He can't attach to me. He keeps making up this business why that he's using me and all this. He can't attach to anybody. That's been his life. It's the man's entire life, 37 years. Attachment disorder because of the crack, being born a crack baby, having multiple caretakers at a young age. That's what causes it. Okay. They don't want to love. They go rage, rage, rage because he'll never submit to it. Okay, so that's just keep using. It explains the marijuana. Using because he obviously has a lot of sadness, and he would never just submit to his wife and cry and stuff and be if he has a personality within him to do it. He can't do it with anybody. Nope. Some people become delusional and think that they're going to be I'm the Virgin Mary. You can't do it. Okay. So just remember that if he tries to pull a new trick on you. Yeah. Sometimes these dudes like Donnie and that guy John and all this stuff, some of the stuff that they contrive in their heads, it's part of being a neutered male, and that's why you guys think you're gay. Explained it a million times, and you're pulling each other's dicks. Maybe you're doing anal, you're blow jobbing, whatever you're doing. That's why it's usually deviant, and you need drugs and stuff to do it because your brains are dying. So you might want to stop that behavior. Eventually, that will go away as more brain matter dies. Brian already admitted to that behavior in 2023, and I think he came out of it. So he's more reactionary to it now. And I don't know if that's why he beat up Donnie. Yeah, I noticed how he was when I slept with him in that stairwell. Even all of a sudden in the middle of the night, he goes, pushed me away because he was starting to sober up. Okay, so you got to be really careful. Don't be dumb. I've explained this dude to you a million times. Don't be that stupid person when he's drunk and then all of a sudden you go and he's beating the fuck out of you, like the person that reported it to me and he admitted it. Well, she probably realized she's all fucked in the head too. She's as psychopathically deranged and can't stop saying fucked up shit to me. I think that she went, there's not a reason to go to the cops. I mean, whoa, I guess I deserved it given what was going on. And she's wicked, mean, and violent too. So pointless. I went like this. It's not worth it to me to go to the cops about any of it. Oh, but anyway, like I told you, after what happened at the thing, he made me promise never to go to the cops. So he can't even get me to break a fucking promise to him. Yeah, talk about torment. Talk about torment, trying to make up something bad that I did, just crawling on the ground, fucking torment. God may have given him something and he wrapped that around in a binder and then the guy goes on his merry way. Okay. Obviously he wasn't going to stop until he was told to leave. Yeah, he obviously wasn't going to stop. It's been a couple of weeks of it now. And then he may have even smoked that much marijuana on purpose, although he's clearly in an emotional and mental crisis, smoking an eighth of an ounce of marijuana in 10 days. So, and like yelling on a walk and stuff at me. Tommy did it too because his mother was so disgusting and he wouldn't stop trying to go back to his mother. He wouldn't stop doing it. He kept going back to his mother. So whoever Brian has tried to go back to, I don't know if it's his aunt that he keeps trying to get the love and attention from, probably because he mentioned her again. Because clearly I already explained it. The whole family's fucked up and he won't stop. He won't let it go. He won't let it go. They can't have relationships with other people. Ooh, what's this? Dr. Eric Berg, Experian, bunch of nonsense. I don't expect to really hear anything until he dies. Yeah, I don't expect to hear anything until he dies. I think if you were hospitalized because of his drinking and his drug use, like the thing where he was bed and stuff, he probably called her himself. Right, because he's clearly never died. When he had the pneumonia and shit, he probably left a phone message because part of them not moving on is they won't change their phone numbers, apparently. Maybe Denise finally changed her phone number after all these years. Let's hope so. Or she passed away because she was having heart surgery. And as far as I know, he hasn't talked to her since then. She may have passed away. I told my therapist that. I go, as far as I know, he hasn't talked to her since before the wedding. When I spoke with her, and I told her not to worry because she was about to go have heart surgery. Okay, so that was how he got them to come to the hospital. Okay, so right, I don't expect to hear from anything until he dies, and it will be like a notification because he's next of kin. I'll tell you another weird thing that happened to this woman at Dollar Tree. She was, because I know that's why people are so completely fucked up. They don't do anything legal. Okay. Quote unquote, his family. The only reason she knew is because even though they weren't together anymore, they still had contact. Yeah, they were estranged, but it wasn't like weird estranged like Al and I. Okay. Or me and Brian currently. It wasn't weird estranged like that. And they probably didn't know that. And they actually, and because of that, his quote unquote family tried to get all his money and stuff. So she had to travel to another state. Excuses. So Quincy's not even a good place to go because those people are just gone mentally. absolutely gone mentally. Oh yeah, it puts Quincy and Quincy Center, all those people that I interacted with. Boom. Jen and Jerry weren't around, so don't expect any of those other people to have much conversations anymore. Oh yeah. Um, I think if they stop being able to see the markings in the photographs now, it's because they can only see it when God deems that they can. Okay. And hopefully, unlike Brian, who flipped out even more and became more dangerous, they will begin to bow down like this. And then more of their brain matter will be okay. As some kind of fear of God comes upon them. That's what happened to Barbara Kent. So that her attacks on me started going away. Right. So they start to be like, and shuffling around and weeping. Like that weird noise that isn't actually crying. Okay. It's part of brain death. It's like I told you, the body keeps going. So the lung cancer will help so that you don't have millions upon millions of those beings shuffling around. Quincy still walking, but they have no brain anymore. They were talking about it down at Mass Ave, and I don't know if people assumed they were drug addicts. They might be drug addicts, but their brain matter is blown out. So they do begin to tip over and stuff like that. I showed videos of the primates doing it, that weird sort of weeping, huffing and stuff like that. Like I said, I'm sure you know you're completely damned after doing this to me, and you know I have a medical condition. Well, I don't really think of life like that because I'm a very adult, independent woman, but clearly I could have met someone else. So I guess maybe try to get a jollies off of that you destroyed you got rid of my marketability because I explained all that to him. It's like if you give Judas enough rope. He will hang himself. Destroy my marketability. Steal 2 years of my life. You have nobody. And then they usually fall down for a while, like that voice at Gavin.
You're such an inspiration to so many.
But that person is being given Adderall. You just go, I would think most psychiatrists would go, this person clearly has severe mania. So it's all part of the damnation about why this person is being given Adderall at all. That is not a medication for people with mania. It makes them sicker. And plus, it's very addictive, and they take more and more and more of it. And maybe they themselves think it's funny to watch people running around like that. I don't. Even I don't have my worst enemy. The word enemy is different. You're not really my enemy, but you make me your enemy. Right. Be my last enemy. Okay. So you clearly stalk me and hunt me and try to attack me. So God has to get rid of you. Let's see, what time is it? 1:40. I gotta be probably ready by 4:00. Drag myself to a dinner at a church that I enjoyed last time. I wasn't even allowed to be happy socializing. It's something that Candy noticed to me, but like it wasn't sort of as sad, right? She thought he was doing it because he was like a child and he didn't like me paying attention to anybody. And he also gets envious if people like me because no matter what you do with Brian, he's never going to think you like him. Right. No matter what happens, he's never going to think you like him. The messages from Gavin, the only reason there's two of them, and that's the day before he was getting released and the day he got released, because I missed the phone call. And I think I was wicked upset. I was calling Gavin back because I missed the phone calls. Every phone call I got from him, he called me every single day from Gavin Foundation, sometimes more than once. And right, all of a sudden, he was actually worried I was blowing him off. He wasn't even supposed to be on marijuana when he was in Gavin. Right. That was supposed to be his lifeline. But we were forced out of a shelter and no one would give us housing. So, like I said, God has his way of keeping people calm. And it's interesting, the timing of Almighty God. The day before that revelation to the whole planet about what's actually going on here, he forced all that to come to a head so that you people will have an excuse. Because you clearly were going to realize it all, what I was telling you on that day. And it's helped to keep you calm, right? It's part of God keeping you contained, so I would just accept it. I have to accept it myself. God explained it to me. You're all going to be allowed to formulate an excuse. It's almost like you're in hospice, and you have to have a reason for what happened with Mary and Brian. You have to have a reason for what happened with Mary. You have to have a reason for what happened with Mary and Brian. So that you don't sit there arguing with yourself like Brian Buchanan for 3 days. Trying to make me react, and that's the reason, and that's what's going on. Especially when you realize what you typed me about Al can't make any sense. You know that that's God talking to you. You're trying to tell me that I'm crazy, and that's exactly what Al Legore did. And it caused me to go have a psychotic break, as you call it, briefly, by triggering childhood abuse. He took a calling from Almighty God to use that against me in a divorce. Not I'm crazy. But when you're an abuse victim, you did the same exact thing to me because you know that you committed sexual assault by coercion, whether you think that you're a drunk or you have mental illness. Okay? And then you raped me, and then when you're realizing, because you're getting sober more and more and more, because this isn't the halfway house. This isn't Quincy where you go in the men's bathroom and someone gives you something and you lie and say you're sober. This is different here. You were told to go to a hospital and you wouldn't do it. So you had to start drinking because I explained it to you that when you were saying weird stuff and you texted to me and I said, oh, that's fine. That sounds like a message to you from God. So I'm sure God made that go away where you had to face what I actually, a brief second of what I've actually been through. Not your life is so bad, bad, bad. You had because you know everything's bullshit with you. You had a brief second of what realization of what I've been through. So you can't justify the things that you've done to me, and you know it.
Historic record for the last 20 years. The census people are responding to climate. They're leaving places that have climate risk, and they're moving to places that don't have climate risk. I think one of the really, really interesting driver of this is not only persistent exposure to climate risk, but we're also seeing the insurance industry start to play a key role in that as housing prices increase versus Florida. The national average is about $2,500 a year for insurance. In Florida, it's about $11,000. People are responding to that. There's a survey that came out that said that about 12% of Floridians are planning to move in the next year out of the state because of climate risk. So we are seeing hyper-mobility already.
Something occurs to me based on your data. Take that final 60 seconds and address the political ramification of this. Because if you're telling me that the Rust Belt to the South pattern is going to stop or be reversed, and then we take a census every 10 years and we draw congressional boundary lines, this could have profound impact on the Electoral College, among other things. Talk to me about that.
Absolutely. I think as people start to disperse, we're likely to see people leave some of the traditional areas in the South that people have been moving to. It's already starting to happen within the next decade. We're likely to see people leaving a lot of climate risky areas, moving to areas that are potentially less risky. A lot of those in the Midwest, a lot of those in the northern part of the country, and we're already seeing that in historic trends where the movement from north to south is essentially not flat. Now we're not seeing those dramatic trends anymore. We'll probably see more purple areas versus the blue and red that we see today.
Okay, purple is good. Purple is good. Jeremy, thank you so much. Appreciate your analysis.
The voter registration is something that both campaigns are watching closely, and in swing states like Pennsylvania, race is so tight that few votes in each precinct could sway the outcome of the whole election. Joining now is Lara Putnam, a professor of history and director of global studies at the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for being here with us. So there was so much optimism and enthusiasm in the days and weeks immediately after Kamala Harris replaced Joe Biden for Democrats. But there are some trends in terms of voter registration that might have Democrats worried. So before we get to actually what that means in terms of the actual numbers, what have you been seeing in some of the swing states, aside from your own, looking, let's say, in Arizona, North Carolina, and so on?
Sure. Well, in all of those places, really strikingly, the portion of registered voters who are Democrats has been declining since 2020, and we can get into the details on that. But let's look at some specifics. In Arizona, Republicans had a 2 percentage point advantage in 2020. They have a 6 percentage point advantage now. But also, it's notable in that time, independents registered in Arizona, the portion of Arizona voters who are registered as independents, has gone from 25 to 29. So it's really independents rather than Republicans per se who are picking up those Democratic losses. In Nevada, the Democrats had a 6 percentage point advantage in 2020, and now they're down to only a 2 percentage point advantage. But again, there, unaffiliated have gone from like 31% to almost 40%. Again, it's really the independents, people who don't identify with either party, who are surging.
Do we know why that is? Because, I mean, it seems like the number of people who are undecided, for instance, I mean, you can count them on one hand, basically, since Donald Trump has become the Republican nominee since 2020.
Sure. On the one hand, yeah, absolutely. This is a time of real political polarization. People are identifying, firmly, that with seeing the parties as more different than ever before. But people are also really cynical about both parties. There are lots of people who feel like they're not well represented, who don't feel like they completely align with either. And that's why we see these large numbers of independents. And I think, it's political science shows us people who are registered as independents often do tend to vote consistently in one direction or another, but they're less likely to vote consistently. So I think that's part of why polls are having a hard time predicting what's going to happen in terms of what the electorate's going to look like, because independents are a little more up for grabs.
And so I asked to exclude Pennsylvania just so we could focus on that because it's going to be such a key state. Where you are, I mean, it seems even more worrying for Democrats. They're losing voters. Is that right? Take me through what you're seeing there.
Yeah. So in the big picture, absolutely, in Pennsylvania, Democrats had an 8 percentage point advantage in 2020 in registration, and that has fallen to about a 4 percentage point advantage. But again, we see the same trend of it's really independents who are surging. So over the course of those 4 years, while Republicans have gained about 80,000 voters, the independent or third-party voters have grown by over 100,000.
Dark and stormy. I like those Wisconsin coming out there. So who are we? Are we still a nation of boundless optimism and enormous opportunity? Are we the exceptional and indispensable people to the world, or are we and our fellow Americans angry, depressed, pessimistic, fearful? Are we beaten down by inflation and the presence of millions of migrants who pour across our southern border? These two visions of America, one right, one dark, are fixing the boxes of the two candidates, Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump. You might think that voters would gravitate toward the glass half full. After all, it worked for Ronald Reagan in 1984. The uplifting Morning America commercial is still a benchmark against which others are judged. Barack Obama embraced the brand of hope. Bill Clinton, literally the man from hope, both Arkansas, that is, called Vice President Harris a president of joy in history for the DNC. And then there was Oprah. And let us choose joy. After Oprah got a roar from that same crowd by singing joy, I saw an analysis suggesting that psychologists thought it was excellent advice. But Donald Trump has other ideas, searching for select voters who keeps getting darker. As noted in USA Today, while Trump has engaged in rough rhetoric since entering politics in 2015, particularly against migrants, he appears to be ratcheting it up in the final weeks of his third general election campaign. In Trump's comments, political opponents have gone from incompetent to mentally impaired. Migrants are murderers with bad genes, and World War III is right around the corner. Just last night, Trump visited Aurora, Colorado, a Denver suburb. The GOP, by the way, has not won Colorado in a presidential election since 2004, and nobody thinks that Colorado is in play this year. But Trump was there to say that Aurora had been invaded and conquered by migrants. The city's conservative Republican mayor said those claims were exaggerated. I used to think that Trump's most divisive words were unscripted, that he was going rogue, that he was causing conniptions among his seasoned staff. After all, if the race is coming down to my neighbors in the Philly Burbs, because as though the Burbs of Philly know Pennsylvania and the nation, that would appear to be a losing strategy and message. You're not going to win the moms in Doylestown, Bryn and Westchester with fear with contentious division. But now I realize they're not the intended audience. Trump knows he can't win them. Everything is baked in at this point. This is not a campaign interested in persuasion. Instead, he's all about motivation. And those that he's seeking to motivate are individuals who might not otherwise get out the vote. Joe Goldberg explained it beautifully recently in the LA Times. He said this: it's like the difference between a film buff who definitely go to the movies this weekend but isn't sure what to see, and somebody who is interested in one movie but isn't sure it's worth the effort to go to the theater. Why not just wait for it to show up on Netflix? It turns out that there are a lot more wait for Netflix voters than there are indecisive film buff voters. How many are there? We all remember 1/3 of people sat out the 2020 election. Goldberg said that apocalyptic rhetoric might turn off my neighbors, but could move the irregular voters to go to the polls. Differences on issues like the border, abortion,
That was kind of interesting. Probably does. Maybe sometimes he doesn't. Candy said before he doesn't talk to anybody. He might be depressed or something after what happened.